Here is a hard truth about board exams that took me a long time to understand. Two students can read the exact same chapter, study for the exact same number of hours, and still walk out with completely different marks. One gets a 9 out of 10, the other gets a 4. Same chapter, same effort. So, what is the difference? The difference is that one of them knows how to write the answer the way the examiner wants it. And in this video, that is exactly what I am going to give you for the Nelson Mandela chapter. We are going to go through all the important questions from this chapter, short ones and long ones. And for each one, I am going to give you the model answer and then show you how to write it and what mistakes to avoid. By the end, you will have ready answers for almost anything they can ask, and you will understand the technique behind them so you can handle even a new twisted question. This is the video that turns your knowledge into marks. If that sounds useful to you, please tap the like button. It genuinely helps. Alright, let's get to work. Before the questions, you need to understand one secret about how answers are marked because it changes everything. When an examiner reads your answer, they are not looking for beautiful, fancy English, I promise you. They are looking for certain key points, certain key words and ideas that they expect to see in the answer. In their mind, there is a checklist. Each key point you hit is a tick. Each tick is a mark. So here is what this means for you. If you write a long, beautiful paragraph, but you miss the key points, you get low marks. But if you write in simple, plain English and you hit every key point clearly, you get full marks. This is fantastic news for anyone who feels their English is weak. You do not need great English. You need the right points, stated clearly. So, as we go through each question, listen for the key points I emphasize because those are your ticks. Let's start. Let's begin with the short questions, the ones worth 1, 2, or 3 marks. These need to be short, direct, and correct. Question 1. Where and when was Mandela's inauguration held? Now, a weak answer just says in South Africa. That is not enough. The full marks answer gives the exact date and place plus a detail. Say this. The inauguration was held on the 10th of May 1994 at the Union Buildings in Pretoria, a place that was once the seat of white rule. Notice I added that last detail about white rule. That extra line is what turns an ordinary answer into a strong one. Question 2. Why did Mandela thank the international leaders? Answer. Because they had come to witness and support the birth of a new, free, and democratic South Africa. Their presence showed the whole world stood with the new nation. Question 3. Why were two national anthems sung at the inauguration? Answer. To show the unity and equality of the new nation. The white people sang the anthem of the black struggle, and the black people sang the old anthem, symbolizing a divided country coming together as one. Question 4. What does courage mean to Mandela? This is a favorite, and it needs his exact idea. Do not just write bravery, write. According to Mandela, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. A brave person feels fear but conquers it and still does what is right. Question 5. What are the twin obligations Mandela speaks of? Answer. Every person has two duties, a duty to their family and a duty to their people, community, and country. Under apartheid, fulfilling the duty to his people tore Mandela away from his family. Question 6. According to Mandela, is it natural to love or to hate? Answer. Mandela believes love is more natural to the human heart. No one is born hating, people learn to hate, and so they can also be taught to love. Question 7. What is the extraordinary human disaster that Mandela mentions? Answer. The extraordinary human disaster is apartheid, the cruel system that oppressed people based on the color of their skin for decades. Question 8. And what is the glorious human achievement? Answer. The glorious human achievement is the overthrow of apartheid and the birth of a free, democratic, and non racial South Africa. Let's take a quick break before the long answers because that is where the biggest marks are. Everything I am covering, all these questions and answers, is written out for you in a free PDF in the description below and in the pinned comment. So, if you would rather revise from clean notes than pause and scribble, just download it. It is free. Now, let's get into the long answers, and this is where you can really pull ahead of the class. Long answers are usually worth 5 or 6 marks and they need structure. So, before I give you the answers, let me give you the structure I want you to use for every single long answer, not just in this chapter, but everywhere. Step 1. Open with a single sentence that directly answers the question. Do not warm up slowly, hit the main point immediately. Step 2. Explain that point with details and examples from the chapter. Step 3. If you can, close with a small reflection or a value, like what the chapter teaches us. Direct answer, explanation, closing thought. Keep that structure in your head. Now let's apply it. Long question 1. How did Mandela's understanding of freedom change as he grew older? Open directly. Mandela's idea of freedom changed and grew as he grew up. Then explain in stages. As a boy, he believed he was born free, free to run in the fields, swim in the streams, and play as long as he obeyed his father. As a young student, he wanted only small, personal freedoms like staying out at night and reading what he liked. But as he grew into a man, he realized a painful truth that this freedom was an illusion because he and all his people were not truly free under apartheid. So his hunger for his own freedom transformed into a hunger for the freedom of all his people. Then close. This transformation is what turned an ordinary young man into a lifelong freedom fighter. Long question 2. Why does Mandela say that the oppressor is not free either? This is the deep one. Open directly, Mandela believes that the person who oppresses others is not truly free. Then explain, a man who takes away another person's freedom is himself a prisoner, locked behind the bars of hatred, prejudice, and narrow mindedness. So both the oppressed and the oppressor lose their humanity. One loses their freedom, the other loses their goodness. Then close with the key line. That is why Mandela says freedom is indivisible, and true freedom must set both of them free. Long question 3. It is often said that the depths of oppression create heights of character. Explain this with reference to the chapter. Open directly. Mandela believes that the terrible suffering of apartheid actually produced some of the greatest human beings. Then explain. The decades of oppression created leaders of remarkable courage, wisdom, and generosity like Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, and others. Mandela says he learned the true meaning of courage from his comrades, ordinary men who risk their lives again and again for their beliefs. Then close, so the harder the oppression became, the stronger and nobler the character it forged in the freedom fighters. Long question 4. Describe the significance of the inauguration ceremony. opened directly. The inauguration on the 10th of May 1994 was a moment of enormous historical significance. Then explain. It marked the end of 3 centuries of white rule and the birth of a free, democratic, non racial nation. It was attended by leaders from more than 140 countries. Two national anthems were sung, and the military pledged its loyalty, all signaling reconciliation and a new beginning. Then close. For Mandela, it was the triumph of justice and humanity over the great disaster of apartheid. Now, boards sometimes ask value based questions which test what the chapter teaches us about life. Let me prepare you for those too. What values do we learn from Nelson Mandela's life? Answer: we learn courage, patience, forgiveness, and selfless sacrifice. Mandela suffered for 30 years yet never gave up and even forgave his oppressors, teaching us that true greatness lies in fighting for justice without hatred. Another one: Mandela was ready to sacrifice his family life for his country. What does this teach us? It teaches us that sometimes the service of a larger cause demands great personal sacrifice, and that true leaders place the needs of their people above their own comfort. For these value questions, always name the values clearly, then connect each to something specific Mandela did. Naming plus example equals full marks. One more type you must be ready for: extract based questions. This is where the paper gives you a few lines from the chapter and asks questions on them. The trick here is simple. First, quickly identify who is speaking and what is happening at that point in the chapter. Then, answer the specific questions using the ideas we have already covered. If the extract is about courage, bring in the triumph over fear idea. If it is about freedom, bring in the indivisible freedom idea. Because you now understand the whole chapter deeply, you can handle any extract they throw at you. Understanding beats memorizing every time. Before we finish, let me give you 3 quick habits that quietly lift everyone's marks. Number 1: always answer the question directly in your first line. Number 2: use simple, correct sentences rather than long, confusing ones, because a clear, simple sentence always beats a messy, complicated one. And number 3: whenever you can, add one specific detail from the chapter: a name, a date, a place, because specific details prove you actually studied it. Do these 3 things on every answer and watch your marks climb. Let's recap the technique, because the technique is the real gift here. Examiners tick key points, so hit the key points in clear, simple English. For short answers, be exact and add a small detail. For long answers, use the structure: direct answer, explanation, closing thought. For value questions, name the value and give an example. And for extracts, identify the moment, then apply what you know. Master that, and this chapter is easy marks. Let me give you a second round of short questions, because the more you have seen, the calmer you will be in the exam. What did Mandela feel as he watched the military display? He felt a deep sense of history and pride, moved that the same forces which would once have arrested him were now saluting him. Whom did Mandela thank in his heart on that day? He thanked the thousands of freedom fighters, many of whom had died, who had sacrificed everything so that this day of freedom could come. He said he was the sum of all those who came before him. What does Mandela mean by a rainbow gathering? A gathering of people of many different colors, races, and nations, all coming together in unity. like the many colors of a rainbow. What was unusual about the military's behavior at the ceremony? The same military that would earlier have arrested and imprisoned Mandela now saluted him and showed its loyalty to him as the new president. What, according to Mandela, can never be truly destroyed. The goodness of a human being, which he describes as a flame that may be hidden but can never be fully put out. And why does Mandela describe apartheid as an extraordinary human disaster? Because it caused immense suffering to millions of people for decades, based only on the color of their skin, making it one of the cruelest systems in history. Now, some additional long answer questions. How does Nelson Mandela pay tribute to the freedom fighters of his country? Open directly, Mandela deeply honors the countless freedom fighters who came before him. Then explain. He says, the great heroes of the struggle produced men and women of extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity, and that he himself was only the sum of all those patriots. He credits the depth of their suffering with creating the height of their character. Then close this humility, giving the glory to others rather than himself, reveals Mandela's own greatness. These days, your paper may also have objective or 1 mark questions, so let me prepare you. For these, accuracy is everything, so learn the hard facts cold. The date, the 10th of May 1994. The place, the Union Buildings, Pretoria. The number of countries, more than 140. The name of the system, apartheid. Mandela's party, the ANC. His definition of courage, the triumph over fear. His view on hate, that no one is born hating, and the key idea that freedom is indivisible. If you have these facts locked in, you will not lose a single easy mark. Let me also give you some plain, practical exam advice because knowing the answers is only half the battle. In the exam, look at the marks before you write. For a 1 or 2 mark question, keep it to a sentence or two. Do not waste time writing a paragraph. For a 5 or 6 mark question, spend a little longer, use your structure, and aim for clear points, not just length. Do not write everything you know in one answer and run out of time for the next. And always, always answer the question that is actually asked, not the question you wish they had asked. Read each question twice before you begin. Finally, let me quickly give you the important words from this chapter because word meaning questions are easy marks if you are ready. Inauguration, the formal ceremony of taking office. Apartheid, a system of racial separation and injustice. Comrade, a fellow fighter in a shared cause. Oppression, the cruel and unjust use of power to keep people down. Reconciliation, the act of making peace after conflict. Resilience, the strength to recover from hardship. Indivisible, something that cannot be divided or separated. Learn these, and you have covered another easy chunk of the paper. Boards now include quick objective questions, so let me rapid fire a set at you with their answers. When was Mandela inaugurated? On the 10th of May 1994. Where? At the Union Buildings in Pretoria. How many foreign leaders attended? More than 140 countries were represented. What was the cruel system called? Apartheid. What was Mandela's party? The African National Congress, the ANC. How long was Mandela imprisoned? About 30 years. What did the military do at the ceremony? They saluted him and flew overhead in loyalty. How many anthems were sung? 2. These are tiny facts, but each one is a guaranteed mark. You may also face assertion reason questions. where you are given a statement and a reason, and you must judge whether each is true and whether the reason explains the statement. Assertion: Mandela believed the oppressor is not free. Reason: a man who takes away another's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. Here, both the assertion and the reason are true, and the reason correctly explains the assertion. So the answer would be both are true, and the reason is the correct explanation. The trick is simple. First decide if the assertion is true, then decide if the reason is true, and finally ask whether the reason actually explains the assertion. Now let me prepare you for the tougher, higher order questions, the ones that make students sweat. Do you think Mandela's idea that the oppressor is also not free is correct? Here you should agree and explain why that a person filled with hatred and prejudice is indeed a prisoner of those emotions, unable to live in peace. So, in a real sense, he is not free either. Why do you think Mandela chose forgiveness over revenge after 30 years in prison? Answer thoughtfully that Mandela understood revenge would only continue the cycle of hatred and keep the nation divided, while forgiveness could heal the country and build a shared future. For these hot questions, the examiner wants your reasoning, so always explain the why behind your answer. Let me give you a couple more full length answers. What is the significance of the two national anthems being sung? Open directly, the singing of two anthems was a powerful symbol of national unity. Then explain. The white community sang the anthem of the black struggle, and the black community sang the old anthem, each honoring the other, though neither yet fully knew the other's words. Then close. It beautifully symbolized two long divided peoples coming together as one new non racial nation. Let me zoom out and give you a game plan for the entire literature section of your paper because strategy wins marks. First, read all the questions before you start writing so your mind can gather points while you work. Second, attempt the questions you are most confident about. First, it builds momentum and secures easy marks early. Third, watch the clock. Give each question the time its marks deserve. Fourth, present your answers neatly. Leave a line between answers. Number them correctly because a clean paper puts the examiner in a generous mood. And fifth, never leave a question blank. Even a partial answer with the right key points can earn marks. Before we close, here is your final checklist for this chapter. The things you must be able to do. Can you state the date and place of the inauguration? Can you explain the meaning of the two anthems? Can you define courage the way Mandela does? Can you explain the twin obligations? Can you trace how his idea of freedom changed? And can you explain why the oppressor is not free, ending with the line that freedom is indivisible? If you can do all six of those, you are fully ready for anything they ask on Nelson Mandela. What does Mandela mean when he says freedom is indivisible? He means freedom cannot be split into parts. You cannot have freedom for some people while others remain in chains. So true freedom must belong to everyone, or it is not real freedom at all. And in one line, what is the central message of this chapter? That true freedom means the liberty and dignity of all people, and it is won not through hatred but through courage, sacrifice, and forgiveness. So now you do not just know the Mandela chapter, you know how to convert it into marks on your answer sheet. The next chapter in your book is completely different in mood. It is the diary of a 13-year-old girl living through one of the darkest times in human history, and it is honest, moving, and surprisingly funny. I have covered the whole from the diary of Anne Frank chapter in the next video in real depth, and you will want it for your exam. Click right here to watch it next. Tap that like button on your way, and I will see you there.